Greetings Duelists and welcome to another video. So I was requested that I should do another preparation for Dune involving Infernoble Knights. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. So this is from the same event that took place with the last match I showed, with the one involving Pure Alien Rescue Ace, but this time is Infernoble Knights versus Mathmech. So a small disclaimer that I have to make. When it comes to Infernoble Knights, they have tools in the OCG that we do not, at least from this current duel, that kind of makes a very significant change to like what their win condition is alongside their end board. However, it's still important to show this match because the sequence and the plays that the deck makes are going to be the same fundamentally, and like the end boards that the deck makes are fundamentally also going to be the same. So I'm going to freeze frame here. So when you play Infernoble Knights, you always expect them to always start to Isolde as soon as possible. That's pretty much their go-to play. And there are a plethora of ways for them to do it. One of them is Sublimation Knight, which is something that Sadim used. Another thing is Neospace Connector, which is a more important one because it can summon Neospace and Aqua Dolphin, which is very pivotal because it makes it so you play around Duel and Lockbird. But yeah, so as you can see, there are 4 equip spells dumped from Isolde. Those are Phoenix Gearblade, Infernoble Arms Durandal, Infernoble Knights Almis, which is a new one we're getting in Duelist Nexus, and then there's Smoke Grenade of the Thief. We do not have neither the Smoke Grenade nor the Phoenix Gear here in the TCG. However, there are some substitutes that we can use for those. Meta Silver Armor is a notable one. Another one would be the Divine Phoenix, like Phoenix Blade. That one is currently forbidden in the OCG, but we still have it at 3 in the TCG. But yeah, so for those who don't know, the Almes, what it does is essentially it can grab you another Noble Arms. So basically now Infernoble Knights have more copies of the Durandal, which is more copies for their starters or extenders. And the Phoenix Gearblade, pretty much what it does is that if it's sent to the graveyard, for the effect of a warrior monster, Exolde is a really good example. You can grab back the Gearblade from the graveyard. But yeah, those are the 2 notable ones. So here he summons Ogier, and now he's going to chain block. He's going to do Ogier Chain Link 1 and the Gearblade as Chain Link 2. The Gearblade grabs itself back. He's explaining it to his opponent. And now the Ogier is going to dump. At that point, he's still contemplating on his options. When it comes to Infernoble Knights, this is a very, very, very versatile deck. It has a lot of lines. So the card he sent was Renaud. He now equips this one is, I think this is Almis. I think this is either Almis or Joyous. I think the Joyous. Okay, so this one, what it does, it can grab from the graveyard. He's trying to grab back the Renaud. Mercado is trying to contest with Diddy Crow, but Natapun is a good player, so he has the Callback Grave. So he grabs back the Infernoble, the Renaud. Renaud special summons itself because you control a fire warrior. When you do that, it is treated as a tuner, and when it's special summoned, you can grab and equip from the graveyard. So I'm pretty sure that, yep, he's grabbing the smoke grenade. As I mentioned before, we don't have that in the TCG. So now he summons the Noble Arm Princess Angelica. This is another new card from Duelist Nexus. Basically what she does is you can grab Horn of the Oliphant or a card that mentions Emperor Charles in its card text, and you grab it to your hand. The second effect of Angelica is if a card is targeting her, you can banish her from the board and send a Fire Warrior monster from your deck to your graveyard, and after that you special summon a Roland monster from your extra deck or your main deck. So he's explaining that to him. He's doing Angelica's effect, and Angelica is going to grab Noble Arms Museum. So Museum is another Dune card. Basically what this one does is you pay 1200 life points and you can grab a Noble Arms from your deck to your hand. So pretty much you can grab Durandal, you can grab the Almas, you can grab the Joyous. The second effect is if you have a Fire Warrior monster that is equipped, you can special summon it from the Spell and Trap Zone. But if you do that, you're locked into Warrior summons for the rest of the turn. So now he's paying 12. He's explaining the effect. He grabs Durandal. So now he's doing Ogier's effect, and Ogier is targeting the Angelica, and now Angelica is going to trigger because the Ogier is targeting her. She's going to banish herself until the end phase, and special summon a Roland and send a Fire Warrior. There's the Captain Roland. There's the Turpin. So Turpin, that's another Doom card. What Turpin does is that if you have a monster equipped to something, you can special it from the graveyard, and you can use it as a non-tuner for a synchro summon. That's very important because the Roland is also a tuner. So now he has the Durandal equipped, the Turpin is activating. Oh, another note, the Turpin does get banished if it leaves the field. Now he's resolving Durandal. He's grabbing Oliver. Oliver pretty much is another extender. You can dump and equip from hand to special summon itself, but then it becomes level 1. Now he summons the Emperor Charles. Emperor Charles, if he is equipped to something, he can pop a card. During the end phase, you can equip something from the deck and a Fire Warrior, and you can send and you can equip as well something from your hand or your graveyard, an equip spell specifically. But as you will soon see, Emperor Charles plays another special rule because of another card. So now the Emperor Charles is summoned. The Roland will try to activate. The Roland can equip itself to Charles and give it 500 attack. So now we're going to another Dune card. The support just keeps on coming. This is Great Emperor Charles. The way to summon this monster is with specifically Emperor Charles equipped to a monster. So while this monster is on the board, this monster is treated as Charles. Not only that, it can equip Charles from the graveyard, and it gains the effects of Emperor Charles. Remember those effects I mentioned earlier? Now this Link monster has them. Adding to that, The Link monster also has the effect that if it's equipped to something, you can once per turn negate a spell or trap activation. So now it's going to equip the Emperor Charles, it's going to give it its name, and now the museum will trigger. He's going to use the museum effect to special summon the Charles from the equip. Now he's locked into warrior summons. He's now activating Oliver. Oliver is going to discard an equip spell to summon itself. Now they're going to summon Bear on the Floor. I don't think I need to explain this one. The one thing I will explain about is this is the OCG combo that they do that we do not have. Basically, what's going to happen is that the Baron is going to pop the smoke grenade, and the smoke grenade is going to look at his Mercado's hand and send and discard a card. So Mercado is showing his hand. He has Sakitama, Diameter, Small World, and Design and Mining. Yeah, this is really, really strong. Like, just having hand knowledge is very, very significant in this game, and this deck does have a win condition that involves that. So now he's doing Oliver's effect to equip itself to the Great Emperor Charles. The Great Emperor Charles now has a spell negate, and since Great Emperor Charles is now treated as Emperor Charles, it does gain the end phase effect, so it will equip a Fire Warrior from the deck, and it will equip the smoke grenade again. And now it will pop the smoke grenade, and it will send another card. Now Mercado draws for turn, but I think the writing's on the wall. I think this game is pretty much over. Like, Nadapun already knows his hand. He drew into an Ash Blossom that he does not know about, but the Ash Blossom is pretty much not enough to contest with this board. He tries to activate Small World. Natapun chains the Crossout Designator. That pretty much tells you that he probably plays like Small World on his build. So now we're going to game 2. Mercado is going to go first. And something to note, Mathmech, at least when it comes to this specific duel, they still have 3 circular. We only have 1. So basically you're going to see a circular combo. This is going to be more uncommon in the TCG because we only have 1 copy. But in the next OCG list, circular will get limited. So this deck will pretty much be at the same power level that we are at. So he specials the circular, dumping the Sigma. He now summons Diameter. After the Sigma, he summons the Sigma. He now goes and summons Primal Inversion. And now he does Inversion as chaining 1, Circular as chaining 2. The reason you do this specific sequence is 1, the Primal Inversion gains a negation effect because of Diameter. 2, now you're chain blocking, so now Natapun has to contest to either 1 or both. You cannot contest directly to 1 specifically. And 3, this plays around Droll and Lockbird. The way it works is they're both adding in the same chain, so after the chain resolves, you can Droll and Lockbird Mercado, but he will already be adding 2 cards to keep extending or like get to his win condition. He's just confirming that Primal Inversion does have the negation effect from the Diameter. So now he's going to add. He's adding Superfactorial and Addition. So if you're familiar with Mathmech, you pretty much already know this is pretty much the full combo that Mathmech is known for. One thing that you probably didn't see, because it was a card that recently came into the TCG after like Circular got limited, it is that Mercado is playing Link Decoder. So before he did his Link Summon, he remembered that Sigma cannot special summon from grave if he controls something from the extra deck. So very heads up from him. He's summoning the Sigma, and now he's summoning the Splash Mage. Now he's using the circular as a material for the monster I just mentioned, the Link Decoder. So what Link Decoder does is that if the Link Decoder is used as a Link material for something that has specifically 2300 attack, so the Heat Soul, he can special summon itself back from graveyard. So the Code Talker Heat Soul, we are familiar with this one. He pretty much going to pay 1,000 to draw a card. So he drew for turn, from his effect. And now we're going to see a Link 5. He's linking into Firewall, Dark Fluid, Neo, Tempest, Terahertz. Tried saying that 3 times. He's sending the Super Factorial. He's activating the Neo Tempest. Basically what it does is you can send the Cybers from your extra deck to the graveyard. And the other effect is that monster effects are from your opponent are negated during the battle phase. The last effect is they can gain attacks and equal to the number of different attribute Cybers monsters in your graveyard. The monster he sent to the graveyard is called Cybers Disave Worm. And basically, if he controls a Link 4 or higher, it can become a spell and trap negate. So this is a very, very strong Mathmech board. This is one of the reasons Mathmech was doing very, very well in the OCG. Just with one circular, you had a plethora of interruptions. Also, if you're wondering why did he leave the Primal Embertian during this entire combo, is because it did have the negate effect from diameter, so it meant it had a negate for whatever Natapun had in order to do this whole sequence of plays. So Natapun is contemplating on his options. He knows that he has to deal with the Super Factorial as well as the Save Worm and potentially the Neo Tempest. Basically, they're confirming his effect. Yep, Mercado is explaining everything to him. It's a pretty long, thorough explanation. So, Natapun starts with Durandal. If the Durandal resolves, that will add him a Fire Warrior. This is pretty much a good tool if you're going second. Just equipping that to your opponent's monster is free advantage if you do end up resolving it. Mercado is contemplating on interrupting him. Seeing his hand, he does have a couple of interruptions. He also has the Super Factorial that can make the Laplacian as another interruption. So he Ghost Ogres. The Ghost Ogre is going to freeze the Durandal. Now he activates the Museum. He's going to chain the Neo Tempest. The Neo Tempest will make it so he can summon Aggregator. And the Aggregator is basically a negate for any face-up card on the field if it's sent to the graveyard. Now he's trying to summon the Immortal Phoenix Gearfried, banishing the Durandal. We see that the Gearfried got summoned. He tries to activate the Super Factorial, targeting those 3, and he has read Reboot. Take note, this is something we also don't have in the TCG. This card is pretty much already gone. But this will play a very, very significant role in this game. Before the activation of this reboot, you could have said that Mercado was in a very, very favorable position because Super Factorial is really, really strong if it resolves, especially if you involve the summon of Diameter. So the red reboot is resolving, the Super Factorial is negated, and he's setting Infinite Impermanence. So now Natapun only has the Save Worm to worry about, as well as this Ash Blossom. So I'm going to pause here. I think Mercado made a huge mistake. I think you should have saved the Ash Blossom for something else, because Natapun has another card in hand, and we do not know if it's just another monster extender. And if Natapun gets to Isolde, he pretty much has his entire Noble Arms into rotation, and the Save Worm won't be able to be enough to stop the plethora of monsters that he keeps summoning. Um, but yeah, um, we'll see if that is correct or not. But at least personally, I would have negated using the Save Worm and just held the Ash Blossom. He summons the Squeak Knight, which is just another Fire Warrior, and exactly as I mentioned, now he summons Isolde. Uh, we don't know if Mercado has another interruption in hand, but we do know that both his trap cards are already being used. The Neo Tempest is also already being used, so there's no negate from Aggregator as well. And the only interaction he has left is the Save Worm. So he summons Ogier, he does the chain block involving the Ogier and the Phoenix. Okay, so I see Mercado does have DD Crow in his hand. He's opting for the DD Crow, negating that, banishing that. The Ogier is going to send to the graveyard. I think this is another misplay from Mercado. I think I would have just let that thing go through, because we still don't know if Natapun has another extender, or he can just, yeah, that's exactly a good example. He has the Turpin. So in the off chance he can get to another play, he can just use the Turpin. That's another extender. He's summoning Hita. The Hita is going to summon the Heat Soul. Heat Soul is going to make it so he draws one card. Natapur is playing very, very optimal here. He's very aware of the Save Worm. So I really don't understand why Mercado DD crowed that. I think like it was very, very important to just keep the hand traps just for other plays. So now the access code is summoned. He's banishing Isolde. He's banishing Hita. Natapon is asking if they can confirm if that set card is the Factorial, which it is. Access code is going to attack over the Prime Allen version. And now Mercado is in the hot seat. He doesn't have Sigma in graveyard, so he basically doesn't have Cyber's extenders. He'll pretty much have to draw to play around the access code. Natapo is confirming to the judges that he did summon it in the main monster zone because he was under Neo Tempest. Mercado draws for turn, and it's really, really rough unless he draws something like Diameter. Mathmechs do have a really hard time when they're top decking. Like another thing that would have saved them is more copies of Circular. From what I see, he does have Signet Mining in hand, if I'm not mistaken, and I think that is Diameter also in hand. Mercado is contemplating on his plays. He's looking at his extract very thoroughly. Some people play a second Splash Mage. Splash Mage is very, very important in scenarios specifically like this one. He's trying to confirm something with the judges. The judges are looking into it. I think it's an interaction involving the G Golden Crystal Heart. Like, the fact that Mercado is thinking super hard on this pretty much tells you that his plays are very, very limited. It kind of telegraphs you that, like, he really doesn't have plays. Otherwise, he would have went for the Splash Mage line. So he just ends turn. He knows that no matter what he summons, Natapun can just contest with access code, and that's pretty much going to solidify the game. But yeah, it's very, very unfortunate. Like, pretty much the deciding factor in these games were cards that we do not have in the TCG. However, I guess this duel was still very, very important because the playstyle of Noble Knights in the TCG is very, very, very similar. The sequences are also very, very similar. The pretty much huge difference are like the end boards and the tech cards that they can play for the respective matchups. But yeah, this duel is pretty much over. He summons the Turpin because there is something equipped, and he attacks with everyone, and that's game. So yeah, I hope you guys found this very, very informative. Infernoble Knights is another deck that is going to be played in the TCG. Its plays are very, very powerful if they resolve. The deck is very, very consistent. The deck has a lot of interruptions, and even though we don't have tools like the Smoke Grenade, we do have other cards like Neospace Aqua Dolphin. They can just loop cards out of your opponent's hand. So try to be very vigilant on this deck and the way it plays. One thing that is really, really important is Isolde summoning and resolving. Another really important card are like the Noble Arms. If those resolve, that could be very, very significant. So I'd say right now a really good hand trap to take note of would be like Ghost Ogre. The Ghost Ogre is a very important one. Droll and Logbird is another good one, but you have to be careful because if they do start with Neospace Connector, that could hinder your plans. Ash Blossom is obviously a mainstay. DD Crow is an interesting one. Mercado pretty much was forced to DD Crow in certain scenarios because that deck does equip a lot from the graveyard, but I don't think DD Crow is enough to warrant a side deck option unless you're playing against other strategies that DD Crow is effective against. Right now, like looking at our current TCG, I can say that people are going to try out Infernoble, people are going to try out Purely, people will try out Rescue Ace. So cards like DD Crow could be helpful against those matchups, but pretty much I'll say the same thing I say at the end of every single video. You're just gonna have to keep practicing and keep dueling. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found this very, very informative, and stay tuned for more. Take care.